Hey there, Facebook. So I just wanted to talk with you guys a little bit about communal living. I've done a lot of communal living in my life. I don't know if you guys have ever lived on a commune or in a communal house or some sort of an eco-village or a resistance camp. But when you live communally, you have to figure out how to respect each other's boundaries. Like, there are things that make other people uncomfortable, whatever they are. For some people, it's chewing loud or smoking cigarettes, talking on the phone. And you kind of have to figure out like what other people's discomforts are and respect them. And it seems kind of obvious and like it would be something that would be easy to do, but when you live communally, it can be really challenging to respect each other's boundaries. And people kind of get nosy and just like get in each other's business. So, you know, if you're thinking about communal living, then just like learning how to recognize another person's comfort zone and just stand aside from it. You know, don't get inside of their boundaries. It seems real easy to talk about, but for instance, I used to live in a communal setting at Renaissance fairs, and you know, we all live really close together. And if you belch or fart or scratch your butt, your neighbor hears it. And you know, when you're respectful, then you kind of give them space to be without being like, hey, you know, I could smell that from over here. You kind of just have to let people be. And you know, I've been trying to figure out like what does it take to live in a community. Like, that's essentially what we were doing in Sacred Stone Camp, is we were living communally. You know, we had communal meals and we had community meetings and just, you know, talk through things, prayed together. And so I've been trying to figure out like what does it mean to live in community? How do we do that? Because when you live communally, you're able to spend less money on resources. You could be able to sort of conserve water and conserve fuel and conserve food and all the normal expenses that people spend on day-to-day life. It's lessened by communal living. And it's, you know, things like childcare, for instance. Childcare is really expensive. It costs a large portion of parents' income to afford childcare. And when you live communally, it's easier to have people that you know, they trust each other with their children. And you know, basically what ends up happening is you use less resources when you live communally. You're able to more effectively leverage your buying dollar, and you know, overall, I feel like it's the way the future of our country is going, is that we have to sort of step away from this fierce individuality that has defined America and figure a way out to live more collectively. And you know, by doing that, we'll make the scarce resources available to more people and be able to live in abundance longer, instead of just some people living in abundance and a lot of people living in this vast poverty, extreme poverty. Communal living allows people to sort of pull each other up out of poverty a little bit. Create backyard economies, you know. I mean, just as a for instance, the commune where I grew up, one of the young ladies there would bake pies, and she would sell the pies all around the neighborhood. People wanted to buy them because it's pie. I mean, you obviously, if you're like me, you like pie. So she would bake all these pies, and that's how she, supplemented her income. That's how she had any income at all. She was a young person. So the way she made money to buy nice things was through baking pies and selling them around the neighborhood. So at some point here, we're going to have to figure out how to go back to communal living. And I feel like that's, to a certain extent, what Sacred Stone Camp was, in a large part, was a step in that direction. It was people who recognized that we need to do things in a different way, in a better way, and we got together and we're doing things that way. So, issues with consumerism and false scarcity and like all of this, societal breakdown, I feel like we could avoid a lot of that by getting back to communal living, because then who's poor and you make sure that they have their needs met. And that way they aren't out there like jacking little old ladies so they can drink their beer or whatever. When you live more communally, you know who needs help, and you go over and help them, and people don't fall through the cracks as much. So I have to figure out a way of doing that, bringing communal living to people who are used to living in this sort of oligarchy. They don't know. There's like it's hard to even figure out how to talk to people about communal living. But here in Eugene, there's quite a few intentional communities. The people have used their buying power and bought entire blocks, and then they separate the blocks out and kind of create studios, and you have code of conduct agreements of how people are expected to behave, and more or less, again, I come back to it, that's what we were doing at Sacred Stone. Is we had, granted, it was a prayer camp, and it was centered around this idea that we were going to make things better. But basically, we were living communally. So, there's a lot of folks out there in different prayer camps across the country trying to figure out how to live communally. And, if you're inside of a prayer camp, you recognize the importance of this conversation that I'm trying to facilitate here, is that we really need to figure out how we're going to live cheek to jowl with each other, especially in high stress situations. So anyway, doing a little bit of laundry here, so get back to doing my laundry. And anyway, I just wanted to touch base with you guys, talk a little bit about communal living. One of the guys I talked with, that he had a communal house that he had opened up to people, said that the main challenges in community were vegans and the way that they related with food compared to how other people related with vegans and their food, and also parents and the way that different parents wanted to raise their children differently. Basically, like, everybody feels like they're doing the best job they can parenting their children, and so they think that they're doing it right. And if someone takes issue with the way that you're parenting your children, it can really cause some discomfort. So anyway, parenting, how people parent, and veganism, how people prepare their food, were the two biggest challenges that he saw in communal living. And it's kind of interesting. But I'm going to get out from in front of this camera and go fold some laundry, but just wanted to talk with you guys a little bit, let you know what I was thinking about communal living. since visiting some communities, looks like it's in the future here. I might be visiting some communities out there. And anyway, I hope everyone's doing great out there in the big internet world. And I gotta go.